sure what the policy is inside the Congress, but here it's important to make sure there's consent for taking pictures. So if you want to take pictures of the group, better maybe to take it from the back so that the faces cannot be seen, or just ask specifically if that's okay. Thank you. And if there's anything else regarding wellness or well-being, feel free to feel free to come to speak to one of us. En español, una cosa por las fotos, es importante que tenemos el consento de todas las personas para tenerlos. Entonces es mejor preguntar antes de coger una foto o cogerla detrás para que no vemos la cara de la gente. Y una cosa también, si hay una cosa de bienestar que es importante, pueden venir a nosotros y nosotras y hablar de él porque podemos asegurar que todo el mundo va bien. Sí. Y tenemos un live stream también, so the event will be live streamed, so anyone that cannot be here with us can follow the live stream online. Cada gente que no puede estar con nosotros puede sí, mirar el live stream. Sí. Ok, gracias.
Okay, testing as if I was speaking from here. Closer, louder. Good. If we're speaking at this kind of volume, it's sounding good. Okay. But if I'm speaking to mic, okay.
Right.
Here, do you want to test real quick? Like just speak a few sentences so we can make sure that that mic's picking it up. You don't have to speak into that.
Hello,
This
hello.
is for the live stream.
Hello, hello. Can you hear us? This is a test to see if the live stream can hear us.
Because you can hear me from here.
Okay. Just a question, is Mr. Collins Lico here with us? Collins Lico? Not yet. Okay. So how was the panel today? Is it good? Congress? Yeah? Fun? Like this? Like this? We cannot start before. Okay. But then I can take it half an hour. Collins is not here yet. Sí, pues. La chose, c'est qu'on attend toujours l'interprétation pour venir. Et du coup, on réfléchit à ce qu'on peut faire. On attend encore les personnes. C'est Collins et les media.
Nice to meet you.
Nice meeting you.
I'm Rabu.
I really need to leave at 9:20. I have a meeting.
Okay, yeah. No worries.
Yeah.
We can make that. Yeah, that's fine. Sure. The only thing is that
One
we're waiting for Colleen and
Yeah.
we're still waiting for Collins and the other panelist. So let's wait for another 5-10 minutes. And if they're not there, we can start and we can just do it in English. And we will just ask anyone that needs translation from Spanish to sit next to another person so that they can translate. Is that fine? Because otherwise,
I can even prevent to have the panel without me.
sure. I mean, I don't think the panel will take a lot longer than an hour because it's 3 questions, 7 minutes each for a question, and then a bit of discussion. So maybe half an hour for the panel and then half an hour for questions.
communication is most about communication.
Sure, exactly. So, hey. Non, ouais, question, hein. Je réfléchis juste s'il y a une petite conversation qu'on peut avoir encore avant que le panel commence, pour que les gens puissent participer. Je pense parler un peu peut-être de climate, parler de ton activisme en Tunisie. Est-ce qu'il y a quelque chose que d'avoir une
Start,
Is it fine? Are you comfortable to speak like this?
I am. It's just the heat doesn't make anyone difference. Sure, sure. Yeah, I'll try.
Okay, I'll just go to the
It's
bathroom.
like trying to take the energy.
Yeah, sure. Okay, I'll be right back, yeah?
Without people, only the photo. Yes.
Just to think about the panel, the translation, people translators have arrived. So like 5-10 minutes.
Depends on what you want.
Yeah, I'll just go to the bathroom for a second. Okay, friends, if I can get your attention just for a minute. So it's going to take another 5-10 minutes just for us to get the translation, the interpretation ready. So feel free also to grab a drink. We also have some sheets on the wall where you can share the group, the organization that you're joining from, or any events that you know that are happening throughout the year. So feel free to check the exhibition around the wall, and then in 5-10 minutes we can make a start. And yeah, en español, entonces vamos a empezar en como 5 a 10 minutos. Esperamos solo la traducción, tenemos interpretación. Y en este tiempo se pueden coger otro vaso o también mirar el póster que tenemos en el grupo, donde pueden añadir todos los eventos que van a pasar este año. Tenemos muchas más cosas, hasta el COP en noviembre, entonces pueden añadir todas las cosas que saben y también si quieren compartir una organización de que vienen, lo pueden hacer también.
Hello, hi everyone. Thank you so much for coming. It's so great to see so many of you. I'm Scarlett from Denver Climate, and I would just like to explain how the interpretation is going to work, and then I'll say it in Spanish. So we have interpretation available English, Spanish, Spanish, English. In case you need, because one of our speakers speaking Spanish, you can come and pick up a device. When you pick up the device, we will need you to give us your ID or passport. You're gonna get it back at the end, okay? Like, we're not like trafficking passports here. It's just for us to make sure that you are not forgetting to give us the equipment back because it's valuable. It's the collective that brought us the equipment, right? So once again, if you need an interpretation, we're gonna be at the table there, and it's gonna be only one channel for interpretation because we only have 2 languages. So when you need interpretation, you will have to channel 2. Sorry, I'm not speaking at the microphone. 2. Ok, ahorita en español, so tenemos interpretación simultánea. Si lo necesita, puede venir allá. Sí, en algunos momentos, porque yo voy a estar ahí para dar los equipamientos. Y cuando van a tomar el dispositivo, vamos a pedir su carta de identidad o pasaporte para estar seguros que no se olviden traer los dispositivos, ¿no? Sí, y cuando van a necesitar interpretación, porque tenemos aquí speakers que van a hablar en inglés y en español también, tienen que irse en cada 2, ¿ok? Cool. And you can come start picking up devices as soon as I'm gonna be at that table there.
Para estar en contacto. Mi hijo se llama Emiliano. Sí. Mira, yo no soy tan moderna. Nada más tienes que abrir tu cámara. Ah, vale, perdón.
So anybody that needs interpretation, please get your device now, and we can make a start. Toda gente que necesita traducción, interpretación, pueden coger sí, el material y vamos a empezar. Yep. Welcome everyone. Bienvenidos, bienvenidas. about to start the panel. If you need translation, si necesitan traducción, you can get the material from the back. Pueden coger el material detrás. Some seats in the front still. If you are very keen, you can come join. And this is an event organized by the collective Debt for Climate, a global South-led movement, which Mr. Rauf is our African coordinator. And we will be taking a few pictures for our press, for our communications. If anybody would not like to be on those pictures, maybe you can just raise your hand so that our communications team knows that you prefer not to be on pictures. Bueno, este evento es organizado de Debt for Climate, un colectivo del sur global, y vamos a sacar unas fotos para la comunicación, para nuestra prensa, y por eso, si alguien no quiere estar en las fotos, pueden levantar la mano para que nuestra equipa sabe de no coger. Entonces, ¿hay alguna persona que no quiere estas fotos de Debt for Climate? No solo vamos a utilizar. Anybody? Okay. Cool. No? Okay. Okay. All right.
It's okay. We will start now in a couple minutes.
Yeah.
Hey, Colin, nice to meet you.
Pleasure.
All right. Please take a seat. We're about to start.
Okay. Are you late?
You know, it's been a long day, a hot day. So thank you to everyone for making the time, sharing the space here. And this space will be open for the next 3-4 days. So feel free to come here to use the space. There is art exhibition here. There is different collaborative projects. So yeah, feel free to use the space. Vamos a empezar en unos minutos y también gracias para todo el mundo a venir aquí después de un día muy largo, con mucho calor y utilizar este espacio. Vamos a tener este espacio abierto para los próximos 3 días, entonces serán bienvenidos de venir a utilizar este espacio. Hay diferentes proyectos, hay arte, hay exhibiciones culturales, entonces sí, serían bienvenidos durante la conferencia de venir aquí. So maybe just before we make a start, just make sure everybody has what they need. For anyone that arrived late, there are bathrooms just through the kitchen. There's food, there are drinks. Make sure you have everything you need.
Para todo el mundo que viene un poco más tarde, tenemos baños. All right. Maybe just a check for the interpreters. Can you hear us? Awesome. Can we give it up for the interpreters who are here for us? Gracias a las personas que hacen la traducción. Sin traducción, el internacionalismo es nada. Sure. So Emilia will start in Spanish. So to anybody who needs translation from Spanish, please get a translation device. And we're almost ready to make a start. My bad. So Emilia is okay to start in English. So we will have the panel all speaking in English. We will do the panel in English. So to anyone that needs translation to Spanish, please get a translation device. El panel va a ser en inglés. Cada persona que necesita traducción en español, por favor, que cogen un material de translation. Some people are happy. Okay. So Raul, I think it's okay. You don't need. It's going to be in English. And there comes Colin too.
Is it Collins or Lico?
Colin, either.
I introduce you to the International Network
Yes.
for Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights. Yeah, and then you can say a few more words.
Okay. Do you have an accent?
All right.
Oh.
Seems like we're all
I didn't
set.
know that.
Temperature is going down.
How many times?
The ears are listening. The souls have arrived. All right, let's open the space. So, hello, welcome everyone. Welcome to the panel, the first panel that we're holding here in this space. This space is called Tramayol. It's a very historic space here in Sevilla, as one of the only radical spaces for social rights, for climate rights, for different struggles that converge. There's over 20 organizations that use this space, that organize here. So yeah, it's going to be open for the next few days. Feel free to use it, and thank you to the whole Tramayol team for letting us use this space. And of course, as well, thank you to everyone who makes this possible, this panel, organized by Debt for Climate, a global South-led movement that is represented all over the world. And you can see the banner in the background. And some of us are at the Congress, of course, but what's most exciting is what's happening after the Congress. So luckily you could all come join us here for the first panel on debt, colonialism, and militarization. So of course, not the lightest topics, but hopefully we can also come together to discuss these very important issues. And we have an incredible panel joining us today. We have Ms. Emilia Reyes from Equidad de Género, Ciudadana, Trabajo y Familia. We'll give a short moment for Emilia to introduce.
Hi, everybody. It's an honor to be here with you. I don't know if my brain is working with all of this heat. Our organization is a feminist one in Mexico. It was formed to serve the movement, the feminist movement. So whatever the movement needs, we try to do. We promote, on one hand, sexual and reproductive health and rights and access to legal abortion. And the other one, which is my program, is that we promote legal, programmatic, and budgetary frameworks for gender equality, and human rights and ecological integrity. But basically, we come from a tradition of feminism that is called feminist of rupture. So we want to dismantle the system to build a new one.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Emilia, for being here with us. Next on the panel, we have Mr. Collins Lico from ESCR Net. It's the International Network for Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights. And again, Collins, if you could briefly introduce yourself.
Thank you so much. Hey, everybody. Good to see you all. My name is Colins Lico. I work with the International Network for Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights. We are a membership organization with more than 300 members, and we are global. We work mostly to promote economic and social rights and ensuring that everyone has their human rights respected and social justice respected as well. We have a number of programs, but for today, I want us to simply focus on economic policy, issues of debt, colonialism, and militarism. Thank you.
I'm Raul. I'm one of the facilitators core team of Sector Climate, coordinating my Esther in Africa. I'm from Tunisia. We, Sector Climate, we're a grassroots movement led by the South. Our demand is an unconditional debt cancellation for the Global South. And we believe that most of the debt are illegitimate debt, especially the one coming from the north to the south. And by asking for the debt cancellation is a right, it's not, we're demanding for that. And we've seen a lot that most of the debt are legitimate, given by an institute like the IMF and World Bank, to manipulate the countries, to manipulate the people, to control them. So we're fighting for this. Yeah.
Thank you so much, both and Collins also, for joining us here. And yeah, for everyone for being here to join this panel. So we will have about half an hour of discussion in the panel and then also some time for questions. And I know it's hot, so please take a break, take some water, and take it easy. But yeah, also, it's kind of interesting for the context to do this Congress in the heat because, of course, climate change is always on the agenda. And so to our first question we want to discuss with the panel is why economics and climate change cannot be separated from politics, nor justice can be separated from liberation. So I'm not sure who would like to go first. Anybody who would like to tackle this big question?
Okay. Maybe there is this concept or principle where they say ladies first.
Right, yes.
You know that, right? Yeah, ladies first?
Sure.
Okay.
I mean, I always like to have the final word, and I take also.
This is not what ladies first say, actually.
Sorry. You know, I'm the worst person.
Hold on. I think you need to like hold the wire and start it off. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And it's good to see you here. I'm the worst person to ask this because I've been working on this a lot. And well, first of all, there are 9 planetary boundaries. We have surpassed 6 out of 9. So this economic system is made to profit from the exhaustion of life, human life, but also not only anthropocentric life, it's also natural life. So we have exhausted 6 out of 9 planetary boundaries. One of those actually is about to be also passing the tipping point, which is climate change. We haven't surpassed that. But the another one that is really key is biodiversity integrity. We have surpassed that by far. So I think the world is misunderstanding climate change when they say everything is about climate change. They're really talking about the way the biosphere works, the entire system of the biosphere. So it is very important to understand that climate change and biodiversity are cross-cutting. So indeed, once we go over the tipping point of climate change, we will see a planetary collapse. That is absolutely true. That is related to biodiversity. Those two are very linked. But the other limits are also very important, such as land use, water use, ocean acidification, novel entities, which are sometimes also chemicals, but also plastics. So there are many related issues, and you know plastics are related as well with fossil fuels, but also land use is not only related to, yes, the mega project that we have, but also in the bigger picture, what we say now is that climate change is also the new green imperialism. Not because there is not a real problem on climate change, it's that the imperial countries are also using climate change as a way to expand their imperialistic spree. And so now, on behalf of climate change, they are taking new land, all of the minerals in the global south, they call them critical minerals, but the question is critical for whom? It's critical for them to keep on expanding their energy base, to keep on consuming with their imperial mode of living, and they don't want to stop. And they're sacrificing with a genocidal and ecocidal mode of living the lands and the ecosystems of the global south. That's why I'm saying I was not the best person to ask this question. Because I don't think climate change is an isolated thing. And also, you were asking, why is this a political issue? It is a political issue because it is indeed a problem, and we need to tackle climate change, and we need to remain below 1.5, and we need to revert and adapt and mitigate, and we need to address those damages. But beyond that, we need to change this economic system that is predatory, that is serving the global north. The global north is responsible for 92% of excess carbon emission, but it's also responsible for 72% of the grabbing of resources globally. 50% of those are from the global south for the use in the global north for this imperial world of living. So there are so many problematic things, and this is why economic justice, politics, are the points of entry for a real transformation. We cannot just tackle with carbon emissions, what we call carbon metrics. That's another imperial way to control global south countries.
Yeah.
Collins, I think if you keep the wire up,
Okay. Start there.
Yeah,
even in the same hand.
yeah, keep it the way Amelia did.
Like this.
Like hold it with the same hand, just like give it like a verb.
Maybe he wants to.
Yeah.
Something like that. Okay, fine. Thank you. Thank you so much for kickstarting that conversation. So it's easier for me to build up from where you left. Yeah, there is extremely a big connection between economics and climate change and politics. Economics is about resources, it's about power. And politics is about who makes those decisions. Climate change is about who suffers and who benefits. So all of these things are very much interconnected. Thank you for putting it so clearly. We are operating in a capitalist extractive economic system. This is a system that, it relies more on damaging the climate. You know that for a capitalist economic system to survive, then we need to extract raw materials, extract minerals, as she said. And these kind of actions, in a bigger way, have a bigger impact on our climate as well as our environment. But who makes decisions when it comes to economics? It is about decision making at the political level. They make decisions often to benefit themselves and not to benefit us. In a capitalist system where politics is the order of the day, it is very difficult to, especially for people like us to participate in making decisions that affect our lives around climate change. And so capitalism relies more on profit. Capitalism relies more on control. Capitalism relies more on extraction. And therefore, in my view, you cannot separate this economic system from the politics of the day, because the same politicians who are supposed to make very progressive decisions around climate justice, around climate change, are the same ones who are supposed to benefit from the same extractive system. We know that countries in the global south, many of them suffer, especially because of the colonial regimes. And right now, and I know this conversation at least at some point we'll have it, why we still have genocides, in the region. It's because it's very simple. The North no longer have resources to run their industries. They no longer have resources to run their corporations. And what do? You go to where those resources are. And if you go to where those resources are, you need to influence, you need to have you impose some kind of power, you impose some kind of control for you to get those resources. And what we've seen a lot of communities now beginning to know that the resources that they have in their own countries are very fundamental and they need to protect them, including the environment. And that is how militarism comes in, because when communities resist, they are faced with militarism. They bring in military to force them out of their land, out of their ancestral land, because there are resources there for them to extract. And so, as she said, we need to mobilize ourselves and we need to continue fighting for our rights. And we need to be able to understand that the kind of leadership we need politically are the kind of people that should be able to understand our rights. They should also be in a position to understand that we only have one world, one earth. If we spoil, the current earth that we have, we will not have anywhere else to go. So we are either going to act now, or it's gonna be too late for us to do anything at some point. I'll stop there for now.
Thank you. I think this is okay.
Give it to her.
In the same way. Okay.
Okay, so I think it's not that we have this weather today, so no one can say that climate change is fake and it's not true, at least.
For the whole week, which is good.
Yeah.
For us.
And it's amazing for me that seeing that we have the same idea and we share a lot and the same ideology. That's great. And I've seen a lot of people talking about climate change. And I've been asking, is climate change a problem? Or is it like a consequence of something made it? Like, is there another problem that makes climate change? So here where we can talk about the economy. And then, because the easy answer is politics make the economy and the economy makes climate change. The capitalist system, they want money, so they produce more and more and more, and they're looking for the profit, so now we have the climate change. But when we go deeper, and when we try to see some examples, they're talking about climate change and they're saying that they're trying to find the solution for the climate change, and it's nothing about politics, it's nothing about climate. But when you saw the negotiation at COP, for example, the NCQG last year, that they don't want to give money, they don't want to take the responsibility of this change. And the Global North are only financing $80 billion, but the Global South are spending $500 billion to cover the climate change disasters. But guess what? They're not giving them as grants. 72% giving them are loans. So here what we find it's just about profit. And then they start talking about the just transition or the energetic transition. And I can give some examples from Tunisia, for example, because we have a big water problem. And we've been asking for help to solve this problem. We have some old pipe of water where they're like 50 years old, and in some of them we have 55% of leaking of water. So we asked them, or the government asked it, I'm against taking loans for this, but they asked it for loan, and the IMF and World Bank, they refused. And they refused because there is no possibility to privatize this sector, to privatize the pipe. But what they did, they financed a project of seawater desalination, which this project will cost us 3 times more than fixing the pipe. and by fixing the pipe, we will get more water like that. So talking about energy transition, because they are doing this project to make green hydrogen actually. So they are not doing the project of water desalination to give water to people to drink. They're doing it to get the green hydrogen to get energy. So we have nothing to do with this. And here we're thinking about politics. That's why we shouldn't separate them from politics. Because this is how the decisions are made. It's only about profit, it's only how to save myself, it's only about how can I make more money and control you. And then they start giving you loan with a lot of conditions. Okay, if you want to take this money, you have to do this. Like for example, we have no water, but now we're making cherry tomato to export them to Europe. Yeah, but I need to make wheat. Egypt in history was the biggest producer of wheat, but now it's the biggest importer of wheat into the world.
You're importing guava.
So when you go to Egypt, you find pineapple now. You don't know if you're in Egypt or in the Philippines. So this is how the system works. This is how it is. So if we're asking about economy and climate change, it's all about how we control this country, how we can get our benefits from them. They don't really care about climate change. They only care about how to make more money. And here it comes the question of deliberation. Because we can't get our own sovereignty or we can't make our own decision if we're not free or if we don't have our sovereignty to decide. And we will never be able to decide if we are indebted. Because looking or by reading the history, like we had direct colonization before. They only want to take resources, so they go to the country, they start war, and they take the resources. But now they decided to change the whole thing because it's better for them not to lose money. So I'm not sending my soldier to your country and lose a lot of money at all. I just give you money and let's make an agreement, and I will tell you how to pay me back by putting some project on your country and by taking your resources and by taking everything from the country. So you find yourself thinking that you get your independence after fighting and all, but the reality was just a fake independence. There is no global south country independent. So this is the whole thing. I mean, this is how I see it at least.
Thank you, Mo, so much for highlighting that link as well, of seeing how climate change is being used as a political tool, right, as a neo-colonial political tool to exert the influence of global north countries. And yeah, I think that really highlights some of the issues also that Collins mentioned, right, of militarization. When you get resistance, when you get a population that says, no, this is not the future that we want, and that the sovereignty of resources is the goal of communities, then you get repression and you get state repression. I think we're seeing that more and more coming up. So actually that's relating to our next point on the agenda. It's how all of those current conflicts and even as far as genocides that we're seeing on an international level are related to this international economic system. How come we are seeing this in 2025, an incredible uproar, an incredible resurgence of violence around the world, and how this is related to this economic system? So I'm not sure if, Emilia, you feel up for tackling this one?
Thank you. Yes, it may seem quite evident, but my friend Hamza Hamuchene also wrote an article on how Africa, like the imperialism, has bastions in the global south. So it started with the apartheid in Africa as a way to control an imperial project in South Africa to have military bases and a control white bastion to expand all of the resources in South Africa, and then it had the imperial project that is Israel in the Swana region. So there are points of entry to close the fist on this region. And then, of course, the revolution and the struggles for liberation succeeded in South Africa despite all of the imperial Western countries. It was not only the US that were saying that Mandela was a terrorist, it was actually the UK, France, everybody, the EU, and it was despite them that the liberation movements managed to get rid of the imperial powers. And so now Israel, that's why it's so important for the imperial Western project, because it is the door not only at the moment for the battle for energy, but it's literally the point of entry to control to the north and to the south, and the geomilitary project with against a multipolar order that relates also with China and with Russia. So it is, I think what we need to get out of this story is that we are here in Sevilla because the financing for development is happening, and there are people here who talk about economic justice and talk about development without talking about imperialism. And they say that imperialism is a thing of the past, oh, you're too ideologized, oh, that's a thing of the 80s and the 70s, and imperialism is very real. It is so real that the US has 800 military bases across the world. You go and Google, if you can now, how many US bases are in your countries, even those of you living in the global north. It is massive. And also, if you live from the global north, go and check your own military bases in other countries. It is massive. So imperialism is alive and real. And if we don't have these interconnections, we will not understand why there's a genocide happening in Gaza. And global north countries, including their citizens, are complicit. Because the governments, of course, are criminals, but by citizens not rioting in watching a genocide unfold in front of our eyes because of their own interest to maintain the imperial mode of living in the global north, are complicit, are enablers. And so it is a very difficult conversation to have because people in the global north want to say, this is about development, oh, the poor countries that are not developed, oh, they are corrupt. And we live in a fascistic state in the global north. We are seeing that. And I'm not saying we don't have our fascists in the north, in the south, but the fascists in the south, they impact us only us in our territories. Whereas the fascists in the north impact the entire world. And so each of you who have a fascist in your governments, you really need to organize internally. What we need is people in the north to organize and fight fascism, militarism, and imperialism in your territories, not on us. We will take care of ourselves, please leave us alone. This is the most important thing, is to start thinking about demilitarization, the true dismantling of imperialism, the growth for the global north, to dismantle the imperial mode of living, and the linking for the global south. Leave us alone.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it any better. The many genocides that are happening in the global south, if you are very keen enough to realize that they're happening in resource-rich countries, where land, oil, minerals, and all of those things are contested. And as I said in my first statement, many countries in the global south are actually resource rich, but we are not very developed. We are not industrialized. We don't run these big corporations, but the north do. They run the big corporations, but they don't have the resource materials. They don't have the land. They don't have all of these things. We do have them. So what do? Find a way to make these people fight against each other, get in there, get what you want, go. Look at what is happening in DRC. DRC, for example, is one of the most resource-rich countries in the world. If anything, in Africa, DRC should be one of the biggest economies, where poverty should not be a question. But we are talking about a country that is dilapidated, full of war, no human rights, no nothing. Why? If you also look at it keenly, you realize that the war in DRC is orchestrated by global North, big multinational corporations. Why? Because they know that there are resources that they're looking for. After colonialism, people have realized that we have a lot of resources in Africa. I mean, in the global South, Africa, Asia, Latin America. But we are not developed, and we are looking for ways to at least, elevate ourselves, make our lives better. But the global North wants to control our resources. So when we resist, you know what happens to us? They're killing us. They want to, demoralize us. They want to make sure that we have no voice. It is actually a shame you're actually killing us in our own land. It is a shame. It is also a shame that we have governments in Africa, in Asia, in Latin America that actually allow the global North countries to come and build very strong, military bases in our own countries. When they come after our resources, it is easy for them to get those resources because they have the military. They are all military in our own countries. What kind of leadership is that? It doesn't make a lot of sense. Now, it is also important for us to understand that, natural resources in so many of these global South countries actually drive international investments. Talk of gold, talk of, all the minerals that you want to talk about. And this is what is sustaining the global North economies. So it is only through war, it is only through destruction, it is only through killing that then they are able to come in, get what they want, and go. So it's a kind of a game, sometimes it's divide and rule. Sometimes it's about, we want to control you. So they have so many tactics that they're using to actually derail our core principle of remaining united as the global South. Today, you realize that when we were in the opening plenary, some countries that we hope should be there to talk about how do we shift, some of these global narratives were not there. Why? You ask yourself, you don't have the answers, but the answers are so clear, they're written on our faces. They do not want to be held accountable. They do not want to be held accountable for so many mistakes that they've made. Now, it is even more sad that, the international economic system is very good at rewarding the elites. You look at economies in the global South, where multinational corporations have built industries. They built, very big manufacturing factories. But who works there? The people who do, the piecemeal jobs are many of us from the global South. That is the extent these people do not respect us. And then they bring what we call the expatriates to come and tell us what to do. They are not going to transfer technology to us because they want to continue controlling us. They know very well if they transfer the technology, we are going to grow up, we are going to grow our economies, we are going to create clean jobs, we are going to do things on our own. So what do? You remain with the technology, remain with the brains, and then give them these manual jobs that do not pay, the dirty jobs. After they are done, nothing happens after that. So you remain perpetually poor, you remain perpetually without power, and when they come in, you oblige anytime. So the genocides that are happening, in the global South are by design. No one can tell you, that they're happening by mistake. No, they are actually by design. So we need to stand up in solidarity. And in Kenya, I come from Kenya. You can see clearly that this thing doesn't want me to speak, right? The wire doesn't want me to speak. Oh, one more round, okay.
No,
Only one.
This it? This
Like
again?
this.
Another, please. I'm so sorry. I have to take you.
One more round.
No. Wait. Hello.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay.
Don't suffocate it. Just like hold
Okay.
it like this. I used to work in a very bad environment with it.
I suspect these must be spirits from the north.
Most likely, yeah.
they do not want me to put them in their place, but I will do that. So yeah, I do think that through a lot of political education, through a lot of us working in solidarity with each other and realizing that we are all fighting a common enemy, we need to find ways to mobilize. We need to find ways to build power, people power, to be able to confront a lot of these new liberal kind of impositions that are being met on us by the global north. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's not really talking after you, but really, Emilia. It's not really talking after you. But trying to answer to this question about the genocide and the capitalist system, I'm trying to name where we have genocide and where we have terrorist groups. So what I was talking about, we have Boko Haram by France in Mali, Niger, Chad. We have ISIS by the US in Iraq. We have Wagner in Sudan by Russia. We have Belgium in Congo, and we have the biggest terrorist entity, Israel, by the UK and by the US. So, having all this, make you ask yourself, like, why are they making all these wars, and why are they establishing all these terrorist groups? What's the profit? And then when you start studying how the capitalist system works, you find that the capitalist system needs the flow, needs the money moving around. So the capitalist system survive from wars and survive from problems, from revolutions, from, I'm not saying progressive revolution, of course, we need to make that, but survive from all the social problems. So then you start understanding they're doing it in purpose. All the genocide is just to make them survive. And for us, we've seen what's happening in Gaza for 2 years now, and they're selling all the weapons, and the market is going well for them, and we've seen new rich company and people and all. So this is how the capitalist system linked it to the genocide. Because it's not possible when you see also in our countries, we're talking about social justice and how we can make everybody comfortable, have a good time of working, have a nice salary and everything. But then we find that it's not working well for the capitalists. They don't want to give you enough money, so we come back tomorrow. They survive from poverty, they survive from problems. So even talking about the climate change, it's done by purpose. All the problems in our society, all the problems happening today are done by the capitalist system in purpose to make more money. Even today, talking about the energy transition, they're trying to sell the new technology, and they start talking about fossil fuel the last time because now the new technology became more expensive, so it's time for them to start selling what they have. So, talking about genocide, talking about all the social problems for the capitalist system, and for this system that we have, it's just a way for them to survive. So, this is how.
Thank you so much for all your contributions, and I think we've seen it in history that is the biggest risk, right, to this imperialist system: is self-determination, is liberation, struggles that show that there is another way. Now we have our panelist Emilia Reyes, who unfortunately needs to go in a bit, so we're very lucky to have her still for one more question, and I would just invite you to maybe go in a bit more depth about this question, and to anybody who wants to ask.
So it's not possible to give a short answer on the question. Okay, so Emilia, you have just a short time, but a question that you might be able to respond to, offer your perspective on, is what is a feminist anti-colonial proposal to challenge this military-industrial complex from an economic justice perspective? Thank you.
Thank you, and apologies, I need to leave. There are security issues that are happening in the conference. So maybe you have heard the news. We have all of our civic rights are suppressed. We cannot gather. We cannot even show up with a pin, with a T-shirt. We cannot even sing. We cannot even gather. We cannot even do passive actions. We cannot even sit down together in the floor because we will be dragged out and the badges of the room. So this is the most oppressive conference that we've been in the UN in the history of all of us who are doing multilateral jobs. So we will have a call now to discuss this. I needed to share this. So just to go back to say that there is a difference between those that are called terrorists by global north countries and those are paramilitary that are installed in our territories to cause chaos and mayhem and conflicts and murder our people. And there are those who are called terrorists that are our freedom fighters, and we need to support them. Part of the bigger project of a feminist agenda is to recognize that we need sovereignty, self-sufficiency, and autonomy. And each of them have different components. We don't have the time to discuss this. But at the heart of this is the tension between capital versus life. So life is everything that upholds us, like care. You know that women uphold 60% of the value that circulates in the world is generated by the work of women through unpaid domestic and care work. So there is not enough money in the world to pay for what women are doing in all of the work that they're providing to the world. So that is a generation of value that is not accounted in the market. But also, there is not enough value, monetary value to assign to nature, to what it's doing is, and actually humans are part of nature. It's not something external to us. So accounting for the value of life that is beyond the anthropocentric understanding of life is very important. So the notion of social metabolism and social reproduction in a bigger understanding should be at the heart of our economic project and our multilateralism that allows us to develop life, and this is a notion of development that the Global South needs to have that is opposed to the notion of development that the Global North is supposed to have. I'm sorry I need to go, but I hope tomorrow you will be able to sing, to dance, to protest, to work.
Thank you so much, Emilia. And to anyone who has a question still, maybe you can follow up with Emilia at the Congress. And yeah, thank you for all your work, bringing us together and making sure that we can raise our voice, that we can share our collective anger at the system at the Congress. Let's hope something fruitful comes out of it. Now, Colin and Ralph, you heard the question too. I'm not sure if you would like to share your perspective on this matter.
Yeah, okay, I can go first, but it's just, honestly, I don't feel so comfortable talking about proposal, proposed as a man, because also, I believe that as much as you are a woman supporter, I don't believe that a man or feminist, like you will never feel what the woman feel like. Especially that I'm coming from a society that kind of a masculine society where the men have a big privilege. So a lot of things I don't have to think about them. So even this purpose, like maybe. But what I can say about militarism, now we're seeing that all the budget in the global south and in all the world also are decreasing or are increasing instead of the military spending and the budget of the Ministry of Defense. So they are taking the budget up and they are spending more money on military. And what happened in my country, women's are feeding out. Like when you go to farmers, you find women working, and they don't have condition of transportation. And the last week we lost 10 women in a car accident because of the bad transport, and the same happened in Egypt. So instead of spending all this money on militarism, it's better to spend them on social justice. It's better to organize all the social fields, and it's better to put the money in its place.
Thank you so much, Rob, for putting that into perspective. I don't know that there is like one specific way of answering this question. It's like quite a complex question, but I think that one thing that we must do, and I appreciate what you said, Raf, is to think about investing in a global carrier economy. We need to direct all of these funds that we put into building very strong militaries, and instead invest them into things like healthcare, education, housing, childcare, elder care, because in so doing, this really removes the burden on women, because many women are so much involved in care work. And they're involved in care work because very many public goods, very many public systems are not functioning. And they're not functioning because we are not putting in resources. We are investing more in building militaries that are not going to help us, rather than investing in systems, public systems that then will give women an opportunity to do something extra in their lives, rather than having to focus more on care. I also think the whole question of reparative economic justice. We have. I hope I'm not okay. So we live in an economic system that is very extractive, as I said earlier, and one of the ways in which this system is extractive is through debt. So if we have the global south countries debt cancelled, perhaps through things like reparations, to address what we suffered, during colonialism, slavery, militarization, and all of that, perhaps maybe establish something like a global reparations fund or something, which would help to really address some of the atrocities that we faced, in the past. And I think that the question of debt is very fundamental, in the sense that all of us understand that when states have no funds to invest in what would be, more robust economic justice kind of infrastructure that could help to spur economic development, then that becomes a problem, because all of us, both men and women, are actually going to struggle within that economy. So it's good to think about debt cancellation, because then that frees up resources for us to be able to invest in what could really support many of us and our livelihoods. I also think that the issue of militarization, for me, it's a problem, and especially at the borders. We need, in Africa, for example, let me give you the perspective of Africa. Africa has 54 countries, 54 countries. But if you want to move from one country to another in Africa, you need a visa. Whether you're a man or a woman, you need a visa. That visa costs you money. So if you have opened up Africa for trade, and this would benefit women quite a lot, because I see in my country women are doing a lot of business, but one thing that impedes them from really moving forward is access to, for example, things like capital, but also, going across the border to get goods and bring back home and sell and make money and make a living. So you have a country, you have a continent that has 54 visas, and each visa. So if you are to do business as a woman, for example, if you want to move from Kenya, you go to Senegal, then from Senegal, you go to another country, North Africa. Assume you want to travel in 10 countries doing business as a woman, you need 10 visas. And the 10 visas, each one of them needs 2 weeks to process. So technically, you won't have perhaps the resources to do all of that. You won't have the time to do all of that. 2 weeks times 10, it's actually 20 weeks. Yeah, for you to get visas, and you still need to travel. So I don't think that we need to also demilitarize, borders and abolish some some of these policies that really, prevent or are actually impediments to really ensuring that women, especially, are able to move freely, and do what they can do to, make their lives better. I think I want to stop that.
Thank you so much, Colin. Thank you, Ralph, also for offering us some proposals of what we can do in this light, right? So Ralph was mentioning a bit, coming from a more patriarchal society, you know, the importance of showing value of all of the invisible work done by women. And Colin, you mentioned the military border complex, right? How this is also a system that needs to be abolished before anything can change, as we are seeing in Europe, right, with the Schengen zone, to have this similar kind of approach. And of course, also investing more in social developments rather than militarization, right? And showing the value, showing actually monetary value of all of this work that is being done to be one step closer to that liberation. Thank you so much to our panelists, also to Emilia. And now we would like to open also for anyone from the public to share their questions. Unfortunately, of course, Emilia cannot be there, but I'm sure many of you will be at the Congress, can ask her a question. And for anyone who would like to contact Emilia afterwards, we can also see about connecting you, so come to speak to us. But first of all, please, to our panelists who are still here. Thank you.
I know how to. Thank you so much, and thank you for my question. It's more of a reflection. It's more of a reflection and a question. What I got from what you said, guys, that we need to break down the capitalistic system, get rid of the banks, take the G20 and the G7 out of the spectrum, free our borders, free our labors, take our fascist governments, and take over. And all that needs to happen before climate change take over. It's just like, wait, most likely it needs to happen before 2030. I just think because this is such a lot of work on the civil society and like the grassroots movements, my question is, what are the strategic key actions that can be done currently to help us do everything that you said? Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Before we give it back to the panel, just wanted to ask, is there another question that we can collect? So there's a question here.
We can try to see
How long the cable is.
It's all the way in the back.
My
bad. So
perhaps that person can come forward. Se pueden venir. If it's okay.
yeah. Just hold the cable up.
Bueno, lo mío no es una... ¿Se oye bien? ¿Se oía? Ah. Bueno, ¿tenemos traducción en inglés también? ¿En la gente? Vale. Quería decir, esto va con deuda por el clima, ¿vale? En el año 2023, seguramente como muchas sabéis, el Banco Mundial eligió el BEC. Hola. El Banco Mundial eligió el BEC, que está en Bilbao, para hablar de financiamiento y tal, y ahí conocí a un chaval de Indonesia que se llamaba Judy, no sé si le conocéis. ¿No le conocéis? ¿Sí? Sí, le conocéis. Fuimos a hacer una acción el último día, que fue, por así decir, reventar el acto de despedida del Banco Mundial, con su objetivo de que quería hablar de que su ciudad se está inundando. Y no es que el agua esté entrando, sino que la ciudad se está hundiendo. No sé si me explico. ¿Sí? Me enseñó unas fotos terribles de su casa, que el agua está a punto de entrar. Y el chaval estaba desesperado. Nadie todavía ha hecho nada ahí. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. So for all those who didn't have time to grab a translation device, let me try to briefly summarize. Thank you so much for that question. So the person was speaking about an event in Bilbao, a similar event where there was an activist from Debt for Climate Indonesia called Yudi, who was coming to this event to speak with world leaders about his city being underwater. There was an incredible flood, not just in the house, but the whole city basically underwater. This happened many months ago, and since then, nothing has happened. No reaction from world leaders, not even a sign of support. So yeah, what does this teach us as well about trust in our political system? But first, I think you remember the question from, then maybe I pass it to Colin.
Thank you so much for your question. And that's what I would call $1 million question. Like, so we are here venting and saying all of these things, but at the end of the day, how do we? Am I suffocating it? How do we get there?
The loop is a bit higher. Loosen.
Okay, that's good. Thank you. And that is a question that, even today we had a session just this evening. We talked about so many things, and then the question was, okay, fine. So, how do we get there? So, and I don't have all the answers, to be very honest. But I think that we are where we are because we are not one. We, like, for example, civil society organizations. We are so many of us. And so many of us have very, very, very good prototypes. We have some very, very good solutions to some of these issues. But they remain with us. And one of the things people raised today was, how do you cascade some of these good ideas you have into the communities? Because as civil society alone, you cannot push this agenda alone. You need those who actually suffer from these issues to be with you every other day. You build a movement that is going to push forward these issues. So, small steps. First, people need to understand how are these issues affecting them on a daily basis. And I think that is very fundamental. So, political and popular education is very critical because I think that when people are conscious, they have a critical consciousness, they're able to begin to think about how do we take action as a collective. Dealing with ignorant people is very difficult because, you see things as okay even when they are not okay. So first, let's awaken people's anger by giving them the information that they need. And this can be done through many of you. I know you already do this, but continue doing this and mobilizing ourselves and building synergies so that we build a global movement. That can be able to champion against some of these issues. And that leads me to my second point. Last year we had our global gathering as a network, and one of the things that came out strongly was that all of us have an understanding of the issues that we face, and we know the causes that we face. All of us actually do know, but the problem is that we are actually working, in what people could call cycles. Like, I don't know, everyone is doing what they are doing. I know, I understand clearly. But I wonder if there is a moment where, we are in a position to, based on key principles that underpin, our own, kind of work, but also our own goals. Is it possible to mobilize ourselves, organize ourselves, and then be able to move as a unit. It doesn't matter because there is always this politics between the South and the North. Now I hear there is a conversation between the South and the South. But we forget that these issues face all of us. So how can we put aside, because I know we have a lot of organizations in the North who are championing quite seriously issues that are actually happening in the South. So how do we bridge the gap and address the political, stance between those in the South and those in the North, so that we say we are one, and the common enemy is the capitalist system, or the common enemy is it's our leaders who are not, doing what we need to do. And one other thing that I want to challenge us, we also need to create alternative spaces like this one, where we come and talk about our issues openly, without fear of oppression or without any fear. Because often I know, and sorry, I'm being a bit critical here. All of us, or many of us, are always fighting. I want to go to the IMF. What do we call them? Annual meetings. I want to go to the IMF. What do we call them? Spring meetings. But I have a question for you. When we talk about colonialism, is IMF not one of the colonial institutions? It is. Yeah. IMF is one of the colonial institutions. Now, IMF was formed 81 years ago. End of this year is 81 years ago. But we all still fight to go to the spring meetings, to the CSPF. We say we want to go to the CSPF. The question is, and we had a conversation just the other day critiquing that space, because if we've been there for all of these years talking about climate change, talking about debt justice, talking about economic justice, but we are still where we were 20 years ago, what does it tell us? The space is captured. It is not our space. We will go there, say what we want to say, go home, wait for the next meeting, and that continues to happen. It is actually even, perturbing for me that we actually fight to go to a space that I feel is very colonial. And I'm not saying we should not go, but we just need to think twice about whether that space really helps to address our issues. It is more of a democratic space that we can, freely express ourselves, or is it a space that is captured for the elite, and we only go there to rubber stamp what they're actually doing, and then come back home and celebrate the fact that we were at the IMF. So I think there's a lot that we need to do to dismantle, some of these colonial narratives that exist, but also we need to appreciate the fact that many of these issues that we are all confronting face all of us. So until then, it is difficult to think about solving them if we have no strategies to come together and address, these issues with one common goal.
Thank you so much, Colin, for bringing in this point on unity and on challenging those systems, noticing how those colonial entities are still present today, calling them out, and being ready, daring to think of different systems built on grassroots, built on organizing from the bottom. So I wanted to pass also the word to Rauf. I don't know if you want to address this point, or perhaps also from our colleague.
Yeah. So talking about the UD, it's Sulawesi, South Sulawesi Island, and the city is Makassar. It's in Indonesia. UD is one of our comrades also, and he is fighting a lot in his city. And what I can say is that what is happening there is only the start. We're going to see more and more of this. And now Indonesia is changing its capital also. It's no more Jakarta, because by 2050, Jakarta will be growing. So we need to wake up. We need to understand what is happening, because nature is getting aggressive, because we need to respect ourselves. We need to respect it. And now, also, I like committed and progressive, honest activists, because I believe we will never be able to fix any problem without an honest and correct diagnosis. How can you solve something if you don't know the problem where it came from? So for the civil society, for the militant, we need to be honest, we need to say the truth, because it happened when we are covering the truth and we say maybe this is not the problem, maybe it's common. So we need to say it. We need to say it's colonialism. We need to say the capitalist system. We need to say change the system. And for us in that proclaim, that's what we found, because we were thinking and we were saying how this monetary system works, what is that, how are they manipulating control, and this is why we're saying we need to cancel the debt. And also this is why we're saying we need to change the system, because we believe that this system survived on killing the people. So if we want to survive, if we want to make or to have social justice, we need to change the system. It's easy. It's easy, I mean, the answer, but it's not easy to change the system. And here's the question, how to change the system and how to work together. Well, at least let's be honest and let's put it. Changing the system and start talking about tactics together on a clear goal that we're working on that. And yeah, we have some problems. We need to forget about them, like some of us, because it's good to talk about ourselves and it's good to fix our problem, because maybe some of our comrades and friends try to show themselves, and also we need to forget about this if we want to fight, because we're fighting against something very strong. So we need to be together. We need to understand that this system, I mean, we change a lot, and it's easy for the system to adapt with everything is changing, with all the changes. Also, we need to adapt also, and we need to change our way of fighting and all, and we need to organize together. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Rauf and Colin, for mentioning that. Yeah, and I think the collective is a point to take away from this. You might have seen on your seat, there was a leaflet for the Mesoamerican convoy to COP. And you might think of COP, of these conferences, what you will, but I think one thing we can agree on is when people come together and travel together for a common goal, right, is to bring their voices to these kind of spaces, we can support that in any way we can. So this Mesoamerican convoy will be coming from many different countries in Abya in Central America to drive together, unless I'm getting something wrong.
Go ahead. Yeah. Sorry? See.
And we have somebody who would just like to share a few words on this.
Hola. Hola. Yo veo que aquí estamos con todo el peso del calor de Sevilla. Igual somos poca gente comparado con toda la gente que deberían de estar aquí. Porque el tema es serio y nos va a afectar a todo el mundo. Y algunas veces pienso o me asombro de que todo el mundo no esté aquí, preocupados por lo que nos puede pasar en un futuro no muy lejano. Y me entra un poco de desesperanza. Y yo me llamo Esperanza. Pero después ocurren cosas que me vuelven a ilusionar. No sé si os habéis enterado que en Estados Unidos ha ganado las primarias una persona árabe, de origen árabe, socialista total, que en Estados Unidos eso es muy difícil, y blandiendo la bandera de la igualdad, de bajar las rentas de la vivienda, de la sanidad, la educación, y a mí eso me ha sorprendido tanto que he pensado que siempre hay esperanza en realidad. Siempre pueden pasar cosas buenas. No podemos desesperarnos.
Thank you so much. Sí. Claro.
Bueno, en primer lugar quiero felicitaros. Me siento muy feliz de estar aquí. He estado en los trabajos en el Foro Feminista y felicito a los compañeros por definirse que no son feministas, que no quieren ocupar nuestro lugar. Eso es muy importante. Por supuesto que los queremos de cómplices, aliados, pero es importante en todas las luchas, tanto aquí como en el sur global, que nos cuestionemos las relaciones de poder de los hombres hacia las mujeres. En Europa yo soy una mujer migrante y de las mujeres europeas hacia las mujeres migrantes, que no hablen por nosotras, que no piensen que ellas nos dan voz y que pueden hablar por nosotras, porque ya estamos hartas, cansadas, de que ellas nos vean como menores de edad o como que tienen que representarnos o hablar por nosotras. No queremos eso. Y sí, igual que Esperanza y que Fátima, creo en un mundo mejor, en la esperanza y en que podemos construir la lucha diaria a través del afecto político, de los cuidados, de la ternura, que no es poca cosa. Yo creo que la política se construye día a día, preocupándote por tu vecina que no tiene que comer, o tu amiga que ha sido reprimida o que tiene una multa, o tu amigo que es rechazado o es violentado porque es trans, o tu amiga que se dedica al trabajo sexual. Entonces creo que está en reconocernos en la diversidad y en esa relación de humanas todas y respetando la naturaleza también. Muchísimas gracias. I love you.
Muchas gracias. Thank you so much. And I'll try to give a very short translation for anyone who doesn't have a microphone. But yeah, we had just two short interventions. The last one also thanking the panelists for not taking the space of a feminist movement, but saying that we are, as people who are socialized as males, not in a place to take on that space, which does not mean that we cannot support this struggle as allies. And also that the politics is happening every day. It's happening when you are speaking with your neighbor, when you're looking out for each other, when you are in solidarity with a friend who is facing repression because they are trans or because they are not fitting into the system, so that we build this every day, and this can be incredibly motivating. And we had also an intervention from our other comrade who was speaking about hope and that we can stay hopeful. We have actually examples that we are seeing every day. Recently, the mayor in New York, or the first candidate in New York, is a Muslim immigrant, a socialist immigrant, which is very much against the stream of American politics nowadays, an activist, and that this can give us hope. Of course, we know also in global South countries with Ibrahim Traore, we have an incredible example as well of somebody who's taking back and kicking out the colonial interests. So yeah, that this can keep us going, that this can keep us hopeful. And from a person called Esperanza, which means hope in Spanish, we know that this is true. So thank you so much for those interventions. Just before we close the panel, is there anybody who had another intervention, another question to the panelists? Anything that needed to be said? Otherwise, we will still be here. We can use the space for the evening. Feel free to stick around, use the space, and yeah, let's organize. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You're welcome, sir. Thank you so much.